Do you guys remember the zone? It was beautiful.
Yes. You went down there, right?
Well, yeah, we've been down there a few times. Gatos wouldn't get out the first time we went down because Pablo and I are like, let's get out and look around. Gatos like, no, don't do it. You guys are going to get hepatitis. And, so we didn't. But then Pablo and I went down, and it was interesting to say the least. But, we read a story the other day from a guy who's like, he went straight into one of those facilities at night, and then he's like, yeah, it's not for me, and he left. My question is, Bruce, you could say you got 79% of people into
some other form of housing.
But how many of them stayed after day 1 or 2?
So here's the thing that you run into, and I've seen this happen in other communities as well. The plight of homelessness, I don't know why. I'm not homeless myself. I don't know any homeless people, but I'm interested in it, for goodness sakes. Other places have tried this. We're going to create a safe area. We're going to set aside a fenced area and put up tents and all this. The problem is it comes with rules. Yes. It comes with expectations. And the fact that these people are homeless in many ways means they choose not to live with a lot of those rules and expectations. Therefore, these alternatives, quote unquote, safe or city or state or government run, are not for they're not going to stay.
No. The guy that we did the piece on last week, he said, it was too restrictive. I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And when you've got a situation where you've got people who aren't going to be clean, can't be clean, they're addicted to something, mentally, they're so out of it, they don't even know what's up or down.
Even things like pets.
Yeah, or pets, or even if you're married, in some cases, you can't be in the same.
You got to be split up.
So and they don't want to stay there. They don't want those rules. And that's why they,
And we're seeing people coming, quote unquote, back to the zone now.
Yeah.
And it reinforces a position I've had all the time that if you take homeless people and you take them somewhere else, they didn't stop being homeless. They're just not homeless in the area you remember them being homeless in. They're just homeless somewhere else.
That was the big thing last week, right? Up in California with Xi. Yeah. So, the president of China's here, Xi Jinping, and what happens? They cleared out all the homeless.
Yep, all the
and
little
everybody's like, well, they
encampments
fixed it. They didn't fix it.
No.
Because a lot of people are like, hey, those people are
They're
now
homeless in Modesto now.
They're in my neighborhood now.
They're just homeless in somebody else's neighborhood. Yeah. They didn't magically stop being homeless.
No,
I see this in California all the time. Because, I spend plenty of time over there, Santa Monica, Venice area. And they have a thing over there with the motor homes, too.
Yes.
And so they'll run them off. And I'm like, well, they didn't stop being homeless. They just went 3 blocks over and parked.
And that's what's happening
put up their
here
tent
now.
Or whatever.
Because we're seeing it spread out. When I get off over here on Glendale, it is, there's maybe 1 or 2 every once in a while. Now I'm starting to see, in the canal, a couple tents, a couple people behind the Chevron living there. It's starting to happen.
I admit I don't have a solution to it, though.
Well, no, because we're not.
I don't want it in my backyard, but I admit I don't have a solution to it. I
think the solution is, we've got to be honest about drugs and mental illness. And we're not going to be. So, I have a friend he came over here, and he's a Dane, but he lived in Portugal for a long time. And
in Danish?
Yeah.
Okay, not as in great.
No. Well, he could be a great Dane. So he comes over, and he's like, he lived in Portugal forever and a day, and he's like looking around in San Francisco, and he goes, people are like, well, you guys in Portugal legalized everything. He goes, not like this. Here's the thing. In Portugal, if you're caught doing it in the street, you go to jail.
Right. We legalized drugs. We didn't legalize drugs in public.
Yeah, but they just allow that to happen.
Right.
And the other thing is you have to seek treatment. Otherwise, you go to jail. So those are the things. We didn't just tell them, hey, we're going to legalize everything. Do what you want whenever you want. And that's California, and that's becoming here. You want to go to the bathroom in the street? That's okay. You want to fornicate? That's okay.
Well, I think it's less of that's okay, I would tell you, and there is only so many cops in the day. What do you want them to respond to? Do you want them to work on murders? Do you want them to work on property theft? Or do you want them to run homeless people out of the park? The cops I know would tell you all we do is run from call to call to call to call to call. It's not like we're sitting around. We don't get to eat donuts as much as we used to and get free coffees. We're working. Yeah. There aren't enough of them to quote unquote police the homeless.
No.
And I brought this up before, and it was a former police chief here in the city of Phoenix. I went to a speech he had given at a homeless shelter, and he made the point, the police are the worst people to deal with the homeless problem.
Yeah.
Because we treat it as law enforcement. You're in the park past 10 p.m., Here's your loitering, you're trespassing. And he goes, now we've taken a homeless person who has their own challenges and we've given him a criminal record. We've made him a criminal homeless person. He goes, I don't think I solved a problem. I made it worse.
Yeah. In our neighborhood out there in the Valley of the Dirt People, we have a really nice park in Casa Grande.
I'm going to take your word for it.
Look,
we're grading on a curve in Casa Grande?
But no, they spend at least $50, $60 putting this thing together. So
dozens of dollars went into it.
All of a sudden, over the last 6 months or a year, it has just become homeless central, and it went from like, hey, you know what? It used to be fun to take my daughter in there, but I don't feel comfortable there anymore.
Wow.
And they
had to go somewhere.
They did.
They were homeless somewhere else.
Probably.
They were homeless in Phoenix or Tucson. Phoenix and Tucson kicked them out. I don't know. What's Casa Grande feel like these days?
Well, that's what it feels like.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, but
when you kick a homeless person off of the street corner, they don't stop being homeless.
Well, and see the big thing that's going to the Supreme Court, and it's funny because Gattis and I have talked a bit about this. So this thing's going to the Supreme Court happens to be the Boise ruling, which is what allows everybody to sleep on the streets. The judge here said no. You're allowed to sleep on the streets if you have nowhere else to go. If you're being offered services, if you're being offered a place and you choose not to take it, then it becomes illegal.
Yeah.
But Phoenix just said, no, we're just going to keep them over here. Now they're going to build a camping site.
It's not going to work. No. I was up in Central California, and they did that. Paso Robles. Beautiful area.
Gorgeous.
Tons of homeless. And
but if you're going to be homeless,
be homeless in wine country, right? And some of it'll flow down the street at some point. So they made this like fenced in area, its own park. It had bathroom facilities like porta potties, but like those trailers.
Yeah.
You could shower, and it had these semi-permanent tents, and none of them moved in.
No.
They would rather live in the river bottom. They'd rather live down where they can panhandle in the downtown area or whatever. They didn't want to be in some park outside of town living in a tent. And I'm like, I don't know how you force them to. If you lock them in, then that's
California
jail.
California would never force them to do anything. We know that.
That's jail then.
Oh, God, what a nightmare indeed.
It's not getting any better, is it?
We'll see what happens. I know that the Rachel Milne said at the end of the year, they'll let everybody know how many people stayed in services. Out of 79%.
Okay.
How many do you think actually stayed? What do you think that percentage is?
My guess? In the 20% range.
That's what I was thinking.
Really?
Yeah,
that's what I'm
around
thinking.
20%
right around
or so.
20 would accept a new way of living and accept the new structure.
I think about 20%, which is, sorry, that means the other, 20% didn't take it, and then the other 80% of the ones that did, they're already gone. Yeah. So they went, like you said, they went somewhere.
They're going to be homeless in Tempe, Mesa, Scottsdale, Chandler, wherever. They just went somewhere else to be
until they started, until everybody turns a blind eye and they all move back to the zone. And then next thing you know,
will happen.
Which is probably going to happen already.